Hi, welcome to a new vlog. Today is the start of a very exciting vlog for me. I've been wanting to do this for at least a year and I never fully went all out with it. This week we are going to do a cemetery picnic. We are going to really plan it, cook a lot of things that I've been wanting to cook for a while, and hopefully you'll come with me on this cooking and baking journey before we actually go to the cemetery for our picnic. I have actually already baked some apple cider donuts, but in a cupcake shape. Basically, the recipe is for donuts. They are baked donuts, but I don't have any donut shaped baking trays. Also going to make some pumpkin bread to go with a little cheese board, as well as some pumpkin hand pies and some quiches. On the cheese board, we're going to have some cheese, probably some nuts and some honey and some grapes. Very exciting. Kind of already want to eat all of these things, but we do have to make them first. So today I'm going to spend the whole afternoon cooking and baking, and then tomorrow I'll finish up what needs to be finished. We'll pack everything up and go on said picnic. Obviously, I'm also going to take some books. I want to start and finish this book during this vlog, which is Masters of Death by Olivie Blake. This came out in July, I think, and I've been saving it for October. I put it on my TBR for autumn, and second of all, because it's been quite popular recently, but I'll read a little bit of it. A ghost-infested mansion, a small group of supernatural beings, and an unlikely quest. So this is about Viola, that she's a vampire estate agent, and the house that she's trying to sell at the moment is being haunted by a ghost. But yeah, I think the guy that she gets is fake medium, but he's also the godson of death. So for some reason that comes into play. Also an unlikely quest. So we'll see how that goes. Very excited to get into this. I have been reading another book as well, and that is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Lavine. This is about, as the title suggests, an artist that has at least a couple of part-time jobs to be able to pay for her life and her art. She's struggling to have a full-time creative career. And so when she sees an advert for someone wanting a roommate for $200 a month in this old, very rich neighborhood, she obviously says yes. I mean, after making sure the guy is not a serial killer. She then discovers that he is a vampire, and they kind of make a little deal that she'll help him fit into modern society. But there's obviously a romance blossoming between the two. I'm around halfway through the book. I still don't know what I'm feeling about this book. It's really lame, but I am enjoying it. Like, I do like the characters and the themes involved. I do think the writing and the situations they find themselves into are really cliche and quite cheesy and lame. I mean, between those two, like, I feel like the premise of this book and the characters are great, but then everything else, the plot, the writing, especially when it involves emails and text messages and notes that they write to each other, they're just very basic and lame. Ugh. I wish there was another word for it. I just think it's very cheesy. I do have Masters of Death in both an audiobook format and physical. So the idea is for today, while I'm cooking and baking, I'll read it via the audiobook. And then tomorrow during the picnic, I'm obviously going to take the book and read it physically. In case you haven't noticed, I have a very nice Waterstone special edition with little skulls on the side and beautiful end pages. Excited to get to this. Please get yourself a snack or a hot drink, especially if it has a lot of spices, maybe some pumpkin, all of those autumnal flavors. And let's get into this video. Definitely get a snack, because if you don't have anything to eat, you might become quite hungry while watching all the baking and cooking I'm going to be doing today. Let's get into the video. When it comes to picnics, the food selection is key to a satisfying outdoor dining experience. Let's delve into what typically constitutes picnic fare. First and foremost, sandwiches, or any breads or pastries that can carry savory flavors. They're portable, easy to eat, and offer a variety of flavors and fillings. Personally, I love a quiche. So today I'm making the vegetarian version of my favorite, onion and bacon. For desserts, anything that is pick-upable is key. So like brownies, cookies, or even simple fruit tarts. As I have been seeing these pumpkin-shaped, pumpkin-filled hand pies on Pinterest and Instagram constantly, I decided to give them a try. Fresh fruits and cut up vegetables are go-to options for a picnic. They're easy to pack and require minimal preparation, as do cheeses and snacks like crisps, pretzels, nuts. These are great for picnics. They're convenient to munch on and can be shared easily. To go with all of these, I decided to make my own bread, but not just any bread, a pumpkin bread filled with crunchy seeds and pumpkin, of course, and shaped, you guessed it, as a pumpkin. Hi, good morning. Welcome to the second day of this vlog. Yesterday, I managed to get to 100 pages. This book is really interesting. I'm really enjoying it. It falls into that category of books that are slow-paced and character-based. So you have chapters visiting different characters, so different perspectives, but then you also have chapters going back into people's lives a little bit, and then you have these small chapters, which was actually the last one I read, which is called Wishes, which are interlude chapters. And so yeah, you have a little bit of a different mix of things. You also have, I'm not sure if that's very visible, but you have like normal conversation, so the present, what's going on, and then a little bit of the past that characters are telling other characters in the present, but instead of you hearing it from them, you kind of get, I mean, you would imagine it in film as when someone's telling someone else something and you then see clips of the past happening, but you're still in the present in that conversation while you're seeing those past clips kind of thing. It's one of those books that's a bit weird, but also it's exactly what I like when you get to delve into kind of the characters' minds and lives. To this point, this book is quite mundane, but still interesting and captivating. I did make use of the audiobook and I'm really enjoying following along. I do actually think in general the Olivie Blake books I've read pair really well with an audiobook because you get to make these books a bit more real. I think if I had read any of her books just physically, I would have maybe been a little bit bored. If I had read these books just physically, I would have been probably bored. But with the audiobook at a slightly higher speed, you just feel like you're visiting these characters, opening a window into their lives for a little bit, and then you move on to the next character, and then they start to interact with each other, and it starts getting exciting. But still, it's a slow-paced story, quite mundane in a extraordinary way, really, because you're really reflecting on the meaning of life and all of these interesting, deep themes but still just following along a group of characters as they're just talking to each other about mundane things. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I hope to continue in the cemetery today, but I'll keep you updated. Now, moving on to what's happening today. As you saw, there was a lot of baking and cooking yesterday, and we still need to finish a few things this morning before we go on our picnic. But yeah, I'm excited to get started on this. As you saw, I have my coffee, so I might read a little bit before getting ready for the day. Let's get into this day. I'm so excited for this picnic. I'm gonna put the audiobook of this on and we'll see how that goes. In the end, a successful picnic is a balance of flavors, textures, and a sprinkle of nature's beauty. Here at the entrance, the first signs of autumn begin to reveal themselves. The path dappled with fallen leaves, their crunch underfoot a reminder that summer has given way to autumn. The gentle rustling of leaves, the soft rays of sun through the trees, and the cawing of distant crows are the only companions to these shared moments. Sitting on a carefully laid out blanket, the atmosphere is both eerie and oddly comforting. As we tear the bread apart, the comforting scent of freshly baked grains and the earthy, nutty scent fill the air, conjuring feelings of warmth and nourishment. To accompany this bread, we have carefully arranged a cheese board with our favourite honeyed pecan nuts. After savouring all the food, I reached for my book, eager to immerse myself in its pages. The gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze became the backdrop to my reading, adding to the peaceful atmosphere. We then gathered our things and cleaned up our picnic area. The blanket was folded and the remnants of our meal were carefully packed away. Before leaving, we took a leisurely walk around the cemetery grounds, appreciating the peaceful atmosphere and the changing hues of the trees. While strolling, we collected some fallen leaves that caught our eye, a quiet way to preserve a memory of this simple, cozy day. We're now obviously back from the cemetery. It was such a nice time. We took it slow, walked around, had our food. I even kind of laid on the blanket after we packed up the majority of things and read and looked at the trees swaying with the wind. It was really, really nice. And it really feels like the start of autumn. I know that we've been in autumn for a bit, but I feel like with the heat waves that we ended up having at the beginning of September, everything feels a little bit delayed this year. But yeah, it was really, really nice. And with the audiobook in the morning and reading a bit in the cemetery, I actually managed to being able to read up to 250 pages around there. When I read there was going to be a quest, I thought it might be a little bit more fast-paced than I initially thought it was going to be. But actually, no, I was right. It's still a slow-paced book about these characters. And you've gone back and forth. There's many characters. So you do have those 5, 6, 7 main characters. You then have Death kind of hanging around in the background, and you see him especially in some of Fox's chapters. But you then have chapters where you meet 2 archangels that appear every once in a while, a bit in the background, but actually they appear a lot more than what I initially thought. You then have this kind of evil figure in the background that you've had a couple of chapters at least from his perspective, and you follow all of them. But it's a weird book because I don't feel like in every chapter you really have things happening. You have a lot of conversations and people fighting and discussing things and being annoyed with each other, but not a lot of stuff happens. It's an interesting book. I feel like there's a lot of elements. You have a lot of characters. I am actually really liking it. I like all the characters. They're very compelling. Their backstories are interesting. And all the themes involved. Olivie Blake wove all of these deities and religions and like folklore together. So it's very interesting, and it's as if everything that you've ever imagined is real. Be it Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, be it Greek mythology or Welsh folklore. The vampire is not actually classic vampire. She was bitten in the Philippines, so she wasn't actually bitten by an European vampire. She was bitten by a member of the Filipino lore. So this vampire, and in this case Viola, they turn into big cats at night, and they, yes, only drink blood, as well as eating human organs. One of the characters is actually the son of a Norse god, but that's not what the story is about. That's the interesting thing about this. Like, the world is really interesting, but it's not about the world. It's about these characters and death and humanity and human emotions, mortality, immortality, death, life. I feel like I've rambled on enough. I'm quite curious to see how it ends. I'm gonna have a cozy night in, and I shall maybe read a bit more of that. Or actually, because I've read quite a bit of this today, I actually think I'm gonna move on and try and finish My Roommate is a Vampire as a kind of palate cleanser from this. I shall be doing that this evening. We'll see each other tomorrow morning. Hi, welcome to not the next day because I forgot to update you yesterday, but the day after that. I finished My Roommate is a Vampire 2 nights ago, and yesterday I continued to read Masters of Death up to page 344 to be exact, and look at my leaf bookmark. Isn't that lovely? It was fully yellow and it's now fully brown. It's so amazing. Just to update you on this, after that section that I was talking about the other day, we went into the tables. This game that the immortals play. They go into each other's minds, they can see each other's memories, and they play with each other's minds in a weird way. Now kind of fight between minds to try and overthrow this bad guy demon. Still a bit slow paced. I mean, for a battle, it's really slow paced. But it's getting a lot more emotional. I'm excited to see where it goes. So today my plan is to finish that. And then I'll give you an update. And then I'll give you an update at the end of the day, hopefully. My Roommate is a Vampire. That was a decent book. It was a plain old romance book with a fantasy element inserted into it. It's a straight up romance. You follow this artist that hasn't really been able to be doing whatever she wants to do. She's holding 2 part-time jobs, one better than the other, and she creates art on the side. She ends up having to move in with this vampire because she's being evicted from her old place, and this place is cheap. It's pretty decent, and the roommate doesn't seem to be a serial killer, so she moves in. They immediately feel attracted to each other, and during the book, she's constantly saying how good looking he is. They don't see each other that much, but they communicate through little messages. And every time they see each other, there's a kind of awkward thing where she's like gawking at him, or he displays part of his body, or something weird like that, which I didn't really enjoy that. I enjoyed the concept. I didn't really enjoy the execution. I felt like all the scenes they were together were too cheesy, too cliche, and they didn't really have that many like deeper conversations. They didn't really talk about their background, their parents and friends, and like I felt like it was maybe a too short book for what they wanted it to be. There was a little bit of action at the end with a little mystery that involved obviously the vampire and something that was going on in his life. You then also had a little bit of our main character looking for a better job more suited to her and what she wants for the future. But apart from that, it was mostly just cliche, cheesy moments between the two. Like, I didn't dislike it. I feel like after the first part of the book, when they were already clearly in love, but still not really acting on it that much, I think I started really liking the book at like 70% of it, which is weird because normally that's when I dislike romance books, because you have the conflict section of the book and then it's realized way too quickly. It doesn't feel realistic. While in this one, I actually enjoyed that part a lot more because it didn't have to do with miscommunication. I like the characters. I actually enjoyed the setting, the elements of the story. But yes, quite cheesy. I wanted it to be much better, but I didn't dislike the final product. Later on, I'm gonna finish Masters of Death and I'll give you my final thoughts and feelings on I Shall See You Later. I really hope you enjoyed all of the food and the nice time, kind of slow, relaxing cemetery picnic that we had, and even my ramblings about this book. I finished it. I found this book really interesting. If you're looking for a fully realized world and fantasy story, you're not going to find that. This was really a study of humanity, human emotion, what it means to be immortal or mortal. A story about a group of supernatural beings go into these people's lives, and you have a little snapshot of it. You open a window, you look into their lives for a bit, and then you close it back up. It's a little snapshot of when all of these people's lives were woven together for a bit, and then they all went their separate ways. And you're just looking at that section where, and I really enjoyed following along all of these characters. None of them are perfect, but they're all lovable in their way. I enjoyed the writing, but there was something weird about the dialogue. I really enjoyed the way the dialogue was structured, but there's a few expressions that a lot of them use. There's a few specific ones that I know the archangels use, and then you see Lucifer and God right at the end, and they also use the same expressions, and I do think a few of the characters also use them, and that it just felt a bit confusing. Like you could tell apart the characters, but when they all use similar ways of speaking, you end up getting them a bit mixed up. And that was, I have to say, that is my only criticism of this book. I knew who was speaking, but I couldn't fully distinguish the different characters because of the way they were speaking. Sometimes I thought the way they were speaking was too similar to each other, especially if characters haven't really met before, but you could still tell the characters apart, and they were definitely quite different from each other. Because this was a bit of a character study, I maybe would have liked a little bit more time with each of the characters, but either way, I did really enjoy this book. It's definitely a 4 stars or above, 100%. I have read 4 of her 6 traditionally published books. I know she has another young adult coming out, and obviously the last of the Atlas trilogy. I am definitely a fan of her writing. Really good book. Going back to My Roommate is a Vampire, I do think I made it sound as if I didn't like it. Now thinking back, I actually really enjoyed it. All of my memories of the book are good, but when I was reading it, I thought it was super cheesy whatsoever. And yes, I'm excited to read more, maybe like cozy mysteries, books set in autumn, because I'm just really feeling this mood. I really hope you had a nice time, and to see you in the next one. Comment below what you're most looking forward to doing around Halloween time, and maybe leave an emoji. Tombstones or leaves, fine if you think tombstones are too creepy. Is there even a tombstone emoji? And yes, we'll see each other next time, and have a nice day. Bye!